Hi, everyone. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm very excited to have Craig Kaiser from LandGate join me for this video. And I wanted to bring the folks at LandGate on because I genuinely think that this is a really interesting program that can offer a solution to many of your needs, especially if you're looking for solar leases or to lease out your own land, or if you're interested in mineral or water rights. So today we have Craig. He's going to go over LandGate, what it is, and how it can help you. And here's Craig, and I'll let
Hi,
him get
Erica.
started.
Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate your time and hello to everybody in your audience. I know you got a lot of followers and a lot of you folks probably have never heard of LandGate. So again, Erica, I appreciate the platform here. But what we are in general, really quick to get started, we are very much like a Zillow type of marketplace and analytics platform for natural resources. So Erica mentioned solar, wind, battery storage, mineral rights, water rights. What we do is we take very, very granular technical data and we narrow that down to essentially dollar per acre values of what a potential solar lease or a potential wind lease or oil and gas lease or mineral lease, things like that, are worth on parcels across the United States. So if you're a landowner listening, LandGate is a resource for you to go to our platform, landgate.com, and at no cost, very similar to Zillow, you go into the map, you find your property, you click on it, and we're going to provide for you a significant amount of information about your property, different species of trees on the property, how much solar energy can be generated from the property, how much the minerals are worth, things like that. So we're a very useful resource to landowners that currently own land or maybe looking to purchase additional land. I know personally all of the land that I purchase, I first screen through the platform to make sure I really understand the full depth, the full DNA of what the piece of property actually is. Could it be a really good site for solar, battery storage, things like that? So that's kind of what we are in a nutshell there, Erica.
Great. Well, I was hoping that we could do a little bit of a screen share. I got a lot of comments, particularly on the videos about solar leases. I got a number of folks asking, what do I do if I want to lease my land? How do I go about finding someone who may lease my property for either solar or wind development? Which was why I was really excited about this tool, because I think it solves an issue that many smaller landowners may have trying to connect with developers, or even just evaluating whether their property could even be useful to a solar or wind developer. So yeah, I think it would be great if you could do a little
Absolutely.
case study to show us, if I'm a landowner and I first want to know whether my property is eligible for solar or wind, and then if it is, how could I use your tool to try and connect with developers?
Well, Erica, that's a great
Okay.
question, and it's a it's something that a lot of landowners across the United States, that's kind of why they utilize LandGate. We are a platform that runs coast to coast, border to border, and looking at this platform here, I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of a live demo. Is if I was a landowner, and I think I'm somewhere here in Pennsylvania, you're going to go ahead and see that I've turned the data on here, and this is data that every landowner gets access to. But I can go ahead and see critical information of what's going to drive the value to solar energy for my particular area or for my particular property. So you can see here very quickly that these red lines, these very large red lines, those are those big transmission lines that you see driving along the highway. The yellow lines, those are more the smaller distribution lines that bring power actually to your homes and keeps our lights on, things like that. And then there's these other really important things called substations. And that's essentially what you can consider a electrical outlet for the larger energy grid. So some of the factors that really matter about your property and whether it's going to be high value is, can they actually build solar panels on the property? Is there enough buildable acres? And if I zoom in using LandGate, what I'm going to see is where there's areas that you cannot build solar panels. So you see these red areas here. those are high topography, so slopes are too great to be able to build solar panels. There's some areas where there's wetlands, rivers, things like that. So wherever there's areas without those exclusion zones, I can go ahead and say, okay, well, at least I can build solar panels in that area. But the other variable that you kind of want to consider is you need to be close to electrical infrastructure. You want to be close to these red lines and these yellow or these orange lines and these yellow dots. So, for instance, this is what any landowner can do. I go to LandGate, and if I was to go ahead and click on a parcel here, which we'll do, if I wanted to go ahead and click on this parcel, what LandGate does right away is our algorithms go through and they pull a significant amount of data. It's going to tell me exactly how far we are away from transmission lines, substations. It's going to tell me a lot about the solar value. And you can see that here when I clicked on the parcel, it's going to tell me in this little area here how much I could potentially lease this property out for solar energy. In this particular property, if we click on the solar and we look at the information that's here, there's a lot of areas that are not covered in exclusion zones. If I look at the electrical infrastructure, there's transmission lines right next to it, so it's a really good site. And it's telling me if I was to lease this property or receive a lease, I'm probably going to make around $825 per acre per year. That's every year for every acre that solar panels would be installed on the property. Now, there's probably people out there saying, okay, well, that's great. I'd be interested if that was my property. I'd like to take that to the market. What's really nice about LandGate is you can come here, you can learn about your property, you can actually generate a nice report and print it off so you have it for your records, but you can create your own listing as well. There is no fee, there's no commission with that. It's your own self-managed listing. So if I owned this property, all I would have to do is click the Create Listing button, click on that parcel, and then basically define what types of resources would I like to receive offers for. Do I want to receive offers for solar, for battery storage, for wind energy, for water rights? Really any natural resource on that property, I can voluntarily create a listing and put that out into the marketplace. Again, that's no commissions, there's no fees, and buyers who see those things up on the marketplace, they're going to reach out directly to you for your particular property. So you're literally the one brokering your deal. If there's anyone out there who's interested in doing things like this, but kind of want somebody in their corner, Erica, and want to work with a land professional or a broker, we have partners that use our tool and work with us across the United States, and we can always make a recommendation and make an introduction there as well. Yep.
And there's a few other cool options that LandGate has or features. I know you also do mineral rights and water rights, which are of interest to many of you as well, I know. So I was hoping you could show us a little bit about how LandGate could help someone who's either looking to discover whether they have mineral or water rights, or whether they're trying to purchase mineral or water rights or sell them.
Absolutely.
Some people do try to sell them as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And my background, just so people are aware, I'm a geologist by training. Spent most of my career in the energy industry, so I really don't ever look at a property without considering those variables of does it include minerals? Are the minerals worth anything? What's actually there that people don't know about? So those are just some other layers that we factor in here. We'll go ahead and look really quickly. I'll click on this mineral tab, and what it's going to do very quickly is I can zoom out here and I can turn on this mineral resources button, and as this loads, you're going to see the bedrock data for these actual parcels load, and that way you can kind of tell what's underneath the property, right? Everybody knows there's soil on property that runs anywhere from a few inches to 30 feet below the property, but what's actually below that? Is there any type of mineral potential there? So here I can see I just turned on the mineral resources, and I'm going to be able to see all of these different types of bedrocks, because each different type of bedrock produces a different type of mineral. So if I turn on the mines, you can see here a completely different view of the property, right? We were just looking at solar data and transmission lines and things like that, which most people don't really acknowledge when they're looking at property either. But now we're looking through a completely different view. We're looking and seeing all of these mining locations nearby. Now, you as a user, you can click on these mining locations and see what has been mined there since when, how many, all of those important pieces of information. But you can see, is it relative to the mineral rights on that property? So this was mining minerals. You can flip over to oil and gas, and you can see where are their oil and gas wells relative to those properties. In this part of Pennsylvania, very, very little oil and gas activity. We don't see any wells, but there's a pipeline running nearby the property. And if I had a portfolio of properties, let's say I owned another piece of property further north in Pennsylvania, I can go ahead and see where are there abandoned wells. That's these little dark icons here. You can see where there's producing wells. Those are green. And like I said, it's really the idea, Erica, is fully understanding the DNA of that property before you purchase it or before you divest of it, right? Because if you don't know it and you don't have those pieces of information, it really is a guess on all of the other potential natural resources and assets. So there was some mineral information, water information. We have a significant amount of that across the United States as well, which cover everything from private water wells, dam locations, diversions, things like that, aquifers. So you can get a lot of different information here. Just about, again, anything that you are currently owning, anything that you are thinking about purchasing. And a question that I normally get from folks about minerals is, do I own the minerals on my property, or are there minerals associated with it? And minerals are very complicated. We'll just touch on it really quickly, Erica. A bit of a educational minute here for your listeners. Rarely, if ever, is it cost effective to go ahead and run a mineral title search to find out exactly how many minerals are there. Unless you're buying a large piece of property in an area where there is active oil and gas production. Again, you'd go to the map and just try to look and see where all of these little green dots are at. Unless you're in an area nearby where there's a lot of green dots, most likely the minerals are probably not going to be worth very much. Same thing on the mining side. Unless there are mining locations nearby and there's production happening, probably not going to be worth that much. So in most cases, it's not cost effective to go ahead and spend a bunch of money to find out if there's minerals associated with the property or not. There's 3 really easy questions to ask though, Erica, every time you're either buying a property or selling a property, to understand if there's minerals associated with it. Number 1, the easiest question, is the landowner getting paid for a royalty? Is the landowner getting paid for oil and gas wells on the property that you're potentially wanting to make this acquisition from? Is the property earning royalties? If the answer is yes, most likely the minerals are associated with the property and you could have the opportunity to purchase them as well. Another really good question to ask the person you're buying from, so ask your seller, have they ever received an offer for someone to purchase their minerals? Have they ever received an offer to lease their minerals? Have they ever leased the minerals on the said property that you're interested in? If the answer is yes to any of those questions, they likely own some minerals. Now, here's an important misconception, Erica. People assume that it's either 100% of the minerals or no minerals. And rarely, if ever, especially the further east you get in the United States, the percentage of how much a mineral owner actually owns of their minerals is probably going to go down. So if they own the minerals, they likely own a percentage of the minerals. They likely do not own 100%. They own a percentage, and a bunch of other people own some of those minerals as well. We teach a lot of courses on that, and we can spend 2 days on that, Erica. I don't want to really get in the weeds, but those 3 questions that I just mentioned really can help you identify quickly, for free, to understand, are there minerals associated with the property, either what you're wanting to buy or what you currently own? And that gives you probably an 85-90% answer in most cases.
I'll just say that's, this is part of the reason why we actually almost never do mineral rights searches when we purchase a property. But I think a big question that many of our watchers may have is, okay, I know it's not cost effective to do a mineral rights search. Many sellers probably don't know whether they own the minerals or not. Can I use LandGate can I use it for free essentially in order to just look around, poke around a property and see if there are active wells nearby? Because that would be the big red flag, right? To indicate whether you
Yeah,
want to do more research.
absolutely. And that's the same thing for all of those different resources, Erica. Kind of put a feeler out and try to get an understanding of the lay of the land of what's going on around the acquisition that you're, and it doesn't matter. It could be a single acre of property. You still want to understand what you're buying. So small mineral or landowners use LandGate. People with hundreds of thousands of acres use LandGate. But you're exactly right. You can go to LandGate, type in the parcel, use the map, navigate to the parcel, and you can start filtering through some of those data layers. Click on the parcel, and you can start filtering through it. Just what I showed you there, it's the exact same thing. Start looking at some of these other different data features and really understand what's there. We've seen a lot of scenarios, Erica, where people are buying property and they own, if you only know what everybody else knows, that doesn't typically lead to good acquisitions, right? If you are buying something and you know exactly what the seller knows, you're probably not making that great of a deal. Now, if you know more, whether you're divesting of the property or you're buying the property, and you have more data and you have more information, that's how you win, and that's how you win in transactions. No matter if it's real estate or commodities, whatever it is, data is what drives the value, right? So that's really what we've tried to do, Erica, is put as much data and information, this is free to landowners across the United States, put it out there and use it the same exact way that a homeowner uses Zillow. They use it to do their homework. What school district is this property in? What did this house just sell for? Everybody does that on the residential side, but nobody until LandGate was created, there was no way to check on all of the natural resources that come from the United States. And that's typically, it's an enormous industry, Eric. It's $7 to $6 trillion a year is what comes from natural resources. Your listeners, yourself, Erica, as a landowner, these natural resources come from the land. So that's what we do in a nutshell, is provide all that information, just help educate buyers and sellers on what they have, property.
Yeah, and that's actually precisely why I wanted to highlight the tool, because I don't think that I haven't found another tool that lets you really dive into these aspects of a property, which are really important when it comes to vacant land. And I know that a lot of people have been talking, again, about solar leases, wind, mineral rights. Even when I'm selling property, I get a lot of questions from people I know who are interested in mineral rights, water rights, solar leases, wind leases. And so it's just nice to see that if you're out there doing your due diligence, you can use a tool like this to go and get a general sense of, will this property be good for solar? How much may I be able to make from it? Also, is there drilling going on around here? If there is, then maybe I should dive a little more into the mineral question. If not, then I probably don't need to worry about it. And, I can sort of take the property as it is and not worry so much about whether I have the minerals or not, which is it's a big issue for many land buyers. So that's why I wanted to highlight this tool. It's for any of you who are doing one-off deals. You're just trying to buy a property for your own use. It's free. So next time you're on Land Watch, check this out. You can
LandGate.
do your research. Next time you're on Land Watch looking for land,
Land Watch.
check
Yes.
out
Yeah, absolutely.
LandGate.
Yeah, I like what you were doing there. Yeah, thank you.
Check out LandGate. It may be able to help you answer some questions about minerals, wind, solar, water. And so that's why I wanted to have Craig on. I thought it was a really interesting tool. I'll be using it in my own business more often. and I wanted to share it with all of you. And if you're also a land investor or realtor, they do have a subscription option that has more features for you. So maybe you want to check that out as well. So thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Craig,
Yeah.
for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an interesting tool, and I was happy to see it. So thank you for sharing.
Well, I really appreciate the time. Again, I appreciate you letting us get in front of your audience because it's the tool that was designed for them. And it's funny you mentioned LandWatch and some of the other land groups. We generated the platform that we have now because we had a lot of buyers. On one screen they would have LandWatch or Zillow up, and then on the other screen they would have LandGate up. So we kind of merged them together. So you might be surprised, a lot of those listings that are up on Zillow, LandWatch, they may already be up on LandGate, where you can go ahead and start screening very quickly what's the potential solar, wind, all of these other things. And it, for me anyway, it makes my scouting and due diligence process far, far more streamlined than what I was doing before. So again, Erica, thank you so much for letting us jump on. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, Craig. And I'll have a link to LandGate in the description if anyone wants to check it out and see how it works for themselves.